Zero. That's roughly how many of Australia's wealthiest citizens built their fortune from a salary alone. Almost none of them. The rich list is dominated by entrepreneurs, investors, people who inherited a head start, and a handful with rare, high-leverage skills. Everyone else? They're stuck doing the same thing, expecting a different result. Working harder, hoping the next pay rise fixes everything. It won't. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In this economy, either something works for you or someone else works you. Own assets or be owned by your bills. That's not a motivational slogan, it's math. So how does someone actually flip from spender to owner without blowing up their entire lifestyle? There's a framework for that. Call it the Aussie wealth split. 25% toward growth, 15% toward stability, 50% toward essentials, and 10% toward guilt-free rewards. 4 buckets, 1 paycheck. A completely different trajectory. Let's start with the 25%, because this is the bucket that actually builds wealth. Most Australians are stuck in what feels like a treadmill, rent or mortgage repayments eating a huge share of take-home pay, groceries climbing, and whatever's left over disappearing before the next payday even arrives. It's not laziness, it's not bad budgeting, it's a structural trap, and cost of living pressure has made it worse than it's been in decades. Here's why escaping it matters so much, and it comes down to one word: compounding. Picture 2 people, Billy and Phil, both 25, both earning the same income. Billy starts investing $400 a month straight into an ASX 200 index fund. Phil says he'll start when things settle down. 10 years pass. Phil finally starts, but Billy doesn't stop. By the time they're both 65, Billy's portfolio isn't just bigger, it's dramatically bigger, because those first 10 years of compounding can never be recreated. Time in the market beats timing the market, and nowhere is that clearer than in this comparison. Now, what actually counts as a growth asset? Think of it as a ladder, low risk at the bottom, high risk at the top. At the low end, broad index funds and exchange-traded funds tracking the ASX 200, things like VAS or A200. These funds have historically delivered average annual returns in the high single digits over the long run. Not a promise, but a well-documented pattern from decades of Australian market data. Real estate, whether that's a direct property purchase or an Australian real estate investment trust, sits in a similar bracket. A step up from there, high-income skills, the kind of expertise employers pay a premium for. Higher again, side hustles and small businesses. Higher still, individual ASX-listed stocks. And right at the top of the risk ladder, cryptocurrency and collectibles. Exciting, but volatile enough that they shouldn't dominate anyone's 25%. Step 1 is choosing where on that ladder to sit. Step 2, and this is where the Australian system gets genuinely powerful, is using the tax-advantaged accounts already built into the system. Superannuation is the single biggest lever most Australians underuse. It's the local equivalent of a retirement account, but with a critical difference. Money inside super is taxed at just 15% instead of a marginal tax rate that could be more than double that. Every employer is currently required to pay a superannuation guarantee contribution, 12% of ordinary earnings, straight into a fund. On top of that, concessional or before-tax contributions, such as salary sacrifice, can be added up to an annual cap. Non-concessional, after-tax contributions have their own separate, much larger cap. These limits are indexed and do shift from year to year, so checking the current Australian Taxation Office figures before making contributions is essential. For younger Australians eyeing a first home, there's also the First Home Super Saver Scheme, a way to voluntarily contribute extra into super, have it taxed at that concessional rate, and later withdraw it specifically for a deposit, up to a lifetime cap. It won't single-handedly solve the deposit challenge, but combined with other savings, it's a genuinely underused tool. One more distinctly Australian concept worth understanding: franking credits. When an Australian company pays tax on its profits and then distributes a dividend, that dividend can come franked, meaning the tax already paid by the company is passed through as a credit to the shareholder. It's part of what's called dividend imputation, and it's one of the reasons Australian shares behave differently, tax-wise, than international shares. As for industry versus retail super funds, broadly, industry funds tend to run lower fees and were originally established without shareholders to pay, while retail funds are typically run by banks or investment companies and can offer a wider menu of investment options. Fees, performance history, and insurance built into the fund are all worth comparing directly, rather than assuming one category is automatically superior. Step 3 is simply starting. A commonly used approach mirrors a three-fund portfolio: Australian shares through something like VAS or A200, international shares through something like VGS or IWLD, and a bond fund such as VAF or VGB for stability. Brokerage platforms popular with everyday Australian investors include CommSec, Perler, Stake, Superhero, and Self-Wealth, each with different fee structures worth comparing. One more distinction worth knowing: accumulation ETFs automatically reinvest dividends, while distribution ETFs pay them out as cash. Same underlying assets, different cash flow experience. That's the 25%. Now the 15%, stability. Financial stability isn't glamorous, but it's what stops one bad month from becoming a financial catastrophe. A car that won't start, an unexpected vet bill, a sudden car loan repayment through a bank like NAB or CBA that lands the same week as the rego renewal. Without a buffer, moments like these get paid for with high-interest debt. Step 1. Calculate the target. A common baseline is 5 months of essential expenses, not 5 months of total spending, just the non-negotiables: rent or mortgage, groceries, utilities, insurance, minimum debt repayments. That number becomes the stability fund target. Step 2. Store it correctly. This money shouldn't sit in a low-interest everyday account, and it shouldn't be invested in anything volatile either. Australian high-interest savings accounts from providers like ING, Macquarie, UBank, or MoveBank are built for exactly this purpose. And here's the safety net behind all of them. Deposits with authorized deposit-taking institutions are protected under the Financial Claims Scheme, the Australian government's deposit guarantee, up to $250,000 per account holder per institution. Step 3. Stack it quickly, using structure, not willpower. A paycheck sweep, automatically diverting a set amount the moment pay lands, removes the temptation to spend it first. A replacement promise, committing to top the fund back up immediately after any withdrawal, keeps it from slowly eroding. And roundup apps like Raise or a bank's built-in roundup feature quietly stack spare change from everyday purchases into the fund without it ever feeling like a sacrifice. Now for the biggest bucket, the 50% covering essentials. This is where lifestyle creep does the most damage. Income goes up, and almost invisibly, spending rises to match it. A nicer car, a flashier postcode, the kind of visible wealth signaling associated with suburbs like Toorak or Bondi. None of that builds a balance sheet. It just makes one look wealthier while quietly staying broke.